Hello and welcome to the Help Is Here podcast. Today I'm going to be answering the question, how long does it take to rewire your porn brain? So let's say you're in a porn addiction right now, or you've got this habit in your life that you want to stop. No matter what you want to call it, compulsion, habit, addiction, there's this behaviour, you keep going back to it no matter how hard you try to stop. And the big question is that a lot of people have, and I was asked this morning by one of our clients, is how long is this going to take? Like, how long is it going to take to rewire my brain? This was from a client of ours. So he's been trained on building a script and rewiring his neural pathways in a very effective way where we deal with the desires directly. Now, the thing is though, even with a client inside of Beyond Compulsion Academy, I do not provide a definitive answer to this question. The reason for that is I do not believe it can be answered definitively. And I could come on here and say, oh, it's different for everyone. It depends on how many years you've consumed that content for. It depends on these different factors. It depends on how much all this other random stuff you do. But no, I'm not going to go down that path. I don't think that's useful either. What I would say is that this question, and this is the interesting thing that no one else on the internet will tell you, the thing is, this question is an indicator of compulsive desire. What I mean by that, right, is if you were not in this addiction, like if you didn't have any problem with porn, or even if you watched porn but didn't want to stop it, you wouldn't have this question. And so what we want to do is we want to treat the thought pattern with some logic, with some rationale, and most importantly, we want to bring things back into the present moment, the right now. The reason for that is the addictive part of the mind has one job. So we have these different parts in our minds. If you've been here for a while, you'll know that we talk about the addictive part of the mind, the rational part of the mind, the child self. And the addictive part of the mind has just one job. It wants you to relapse. And one of its really smart strategies is to get people to think way off into the future. Because if you think about it, you have no control over what you're going to do in 6 months' time or 12 months' time. And so the addictive part of the mind is pretty obsessed really with numbers and streaks, future thinking, results. That's where it wants you psychologically to go. It wants you to focus on things that you have, honestly, no control over. You can't control what you're going to do in 6 months right now at this moment. What you can do though, which is the great thing, is decide for yourself what you choose to do right now at this moment. That's the only time that's the only space, that's the only place you have control over. And so what I would do with my clients is tell them hey man, okay, I know you want to know when you're going to maybe stop using your script, or you want to know when your brain's going to change, or you want to know when you're going to stop having these desires. But that focus is not going to get you anywhere effective. And what we want to do is actively, and I really, really want to stress this word, actively disengage from those kind of questions, because they're going to actually feed the addictive neural pathways. They're going to give the addictive part of the mind what it wants, which is you really to feel helpless, unsure, way off in the future, and away from the thing that's actually going to help you make productive change in the brain, which is thinking through a choice in a rational way in the present moment, right here, right now. And from my experience anyway, I've had this question a lot in the past. When I first learned this method, I was quite desperate to get rid of the desires. But what I have learned now is that the desire isn't even the problem. And what happens is, I believe online people are kind of brainwashed or conditioned into believing that the desire is a problem by all of the methods that are out there. So if we think about it, blockers, what do? They're trying to block us from accessing it. And that's based on this foundational belief that if we have the desire, we're going to get out of control. Remove your triggers, put your phone away, stay busy, distract yourself, substitute out porn for another thing. Most methods online, they're focused on trying to get you away from the desire based on the faulty belief system that the desire is a problem and that if you have the desire, you're going to relapse. But that isn't true. I can tell you that from my experience, from the experience of many, many men from all over the world now that I have had the privilege to work with, that the desire is not the problem. The problem people have is how do you respond to that desire? So once you're equipped and you have the training and you know exactly how to deal with that desire, you no longer even you're no longer even bothered really about like whether you have the desire or not. Like, sure, they do lessen over time. Sure, you get more comfortable and you have that self-trust over time, and you're not always thinking about porn or this problem like down the line. But even if I were to have a desire, or a client who's maybe like used this method for a while now, it just becomes a bit of a non-issue. It's like, oh yeah, it's a bit of a pain perhaps, a bit annoying, but it's also like, well, that's not a problem. Like, I just know how to deal with that. A bit like, let's say you got trained on driving a car. You wouldn't be like questioning like, oh, what am I going to do in this situation if I need to drive a car? You would just like almost, I don't want to use the word automatically, but it just kind of becomes part of your like wiring in your brain that you know how to drive. It's like, it just becomes something you do. And so it's not like this problem anymore because you just know how to do it. And that's the thing with desires, is once you know how to deal with them, you no longer really need to worry about, oh, how long am I going to like have this problem, or like, when is my brain going to change? Instead, what you would want to do, especially in the early stages, is actually see any thoughts, way off into the future as opportunities to make the change in the present moment. Because what would happen if I like reply to this guy like, okay, so it could take between 6 and 9 months for you to rewire your brain. What I would be doing is just giving the addicted part of the mind so much ammunition, because then that client would get to like, let's say you went 8 months without porn, which obviously he could do if he, actually applied the script and used the tools and used the education we provide him. So let's say he gets to 8 months, and then, or let's say it's 9 months or 10 months even. Yeah, let's say this guy gets to 10 months, and I've said to him, between 6 and 9 months, like, you're going to be fine, like, you're not going to have this problem anymore. And then he gets to 10 months, and something happens in his life that maybe he's never experienced before, and he suddenly has this desire for the first time in like 3 or 4 months. If he has the belief system that like at 6 to 9 months he's clear, he's good, he's no longer got a problem with this, but then he has the desire, like, the guy's going to be kind of screwed. And so that's why what we want to do is really adopt this attitude of, the desire is not a problem. I'm just going to take things moment by moment. And if I do have that desire in the future, no problem. I know how to deal with it because I'm equipped to do so. And this is, again, why I think the whole no-fap thing is like so detrimental to people. Because I remember believing in the past that I would get to like 90 days of no-fap and then like I wouldn't have the desires anymore. So I kept going on these long streaks and then relapsing and questioning like, what the hell? Like, how have I ended up relapsing even though I've just done 90 days of no-fap? But it's because I just didn't have the right information. I didn't understand that you can literally live your whole life in control of yourself, making solid choices just moment by moment, never fearing relapse ever again. You can do all of that 100%, but it doesn't come from like tracking the days or thinking into the future about what ifs and like when's the brain going to change, or like focusing on the results. It really comes from just taking things moment by moment and seeing this more as a skill that you are equipped with through training, rather than it like learning how to drive a car, right? Rather than it being something where you get to a certain amount of days and boom, like you never have the desire again. Like, it's just so unrealistic to believe that you're going to just hit a day and then bang, desires are gone for good. It's just not really how it works. So that's my truth, I suppose. Like, that's just been my experience and what I've seen with the guys I work with. And, we've worked with guys now who we've got one guy coming up to like 2 years, so like one of our first clients. So nearly like 2 years without any porn. Then we've got quite a few other clients now who have gone over 1 year without porn as well. These guys from time to time still have the desire, but they just know how to deal with it. So they just get to move on with their life, having dealt with that desire directly and then cracking on. But yeah, hopefully this can help you. Just want to clear this one up because it's a question I get asked quite a lot. And yeah, if you would like to start learning and getting trained on the Beyond Compulsion method so you can deal with compulsive desires directly and no longer worrying about like, what do I do if I have an urge, or like, how do I get rid of these desires? And instead you want to start just dealing with them moment by moment in a very effective way, then feel free to join the Beyond Compulsion Academy. I'll leave a link below to more information. Cheers for listening, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.